It was a dark night, and the rain hit the roof like falling stones. Jace sat alone in his small wooden cabin at the edge of the forest. The fire crackled softly, giving the room a warm glow. He was reading an old book when he heard a soft knock on the door. It was strange, because no one ever came this deep into the forest. Especially at night, Jace stood up slowly, confused, and walked toward the door. The knock came again, this time faster, weaker, almost like someone was scared or hurt. When he opened the door, he froze. A girl stood there in the rain, her body shaking, her clothes torn, and her eyes wide with fear, but she wasn't human. Her skin had a soft silver glow, her hair was wet and shining like moonlight, and her arms had faint glowing lines like symbols. She looked like she had come from another world. Jace didn't speak, and neither did she for a moment. They just stared at each other. The rain poured harder, and the girl took a small step back. She was barefoot, shivering, and soaking wet. Jace quickly reached for a towel and held it out to her. "Here," he said softly. "You're cold." The girl looked at the towel like it was some kind of treasure. Her hand trembled as she reached for it. The moment her fingers touched the towel, she stopped moving. Her eyes went wide, and she looked at Jace like he had done something unthinkable. Then, very slowly, she dropped to her knees. "You touched me." "Willingly," she whispered, her voice soft and full of shock. Jace was confused. "It's just a towel," he said. "You're wet." "That's all?" She looked at him like he had spoken magic. Her lips trembled, and she held the towel to her chest, as if it was something holy. Her glowing eyes stared at the floor, and she whispered something in a language Jace didn't understand. Then she said in broken English, "You are human." Jace knelt down. "Yes, I'm human, and you're safe here." She didn't move, but tears mixed with the rain on her face. He gently helped her inside, closed the door, and gave her a seat near the fire. She sat down, still holding the towel tightly like a shield. Her body was thin, like she hadn't eaten for days. Jace gave her a blanket, some warm soup, and waited. She looked around like everything in the room was strange and new. When she tasted the soup, she gasped, then ate quickly, almost like she didn't believe it was real. She ate with both hands, eyes still watching him like he might vanish. "I'm Jace," he said, trying to keep his voice calm. "What's your name?" The girl hesitated, then looked up. "Kalari," she said slowly. "I escaped." He didn't ask from where, not yet, but he knew something was wrong. She had bruises, marks that looked like burns, and those strange glowing lines on her skin. He had never seen anything like her before, not in any Earth news, not even in alien trade videos. She was something else, something rare and probably dangerous that night. As she fell asleep on the couch wrapped in a blanket, Jace stayed awake. He looked at her glowing skin, her calm face, and the towel still clutched in her hands. Why was she so shocked by kindness? Why did a simple towel make her fall to her knees? Outside, the rain stopped, but Jace knew this peace wouldn't last. He could feel it deep in his chest. This girl, Kalari, was not just lost, she was running. And whatever she was running from might come here next. But he also knew one thing for sure. He couldn't send her back out there. No matter the danger, no matter the cost. Because when she looked at him with those silver eyes, she didn't see a stranger. She saw something she had never known before. Oh. The morning came slowly, with soft light pouring through the cabin windows. Kalari was already awake, sitting silently near the fire, her eyes watching the flames like they were alive. Jace noticed she hadn't moved much, still holding the towel like it meant everything. She looked calm, but there was something heavy in her eyes, like she was waiting for something bad to happen. Jace handed her a cup of tea. "You slept okay?" he asked. She took the cup, nodded once, but didn't speak. Her fingers were long and delicate, but covered in tiny scars like she had been shackled before. Jace sat across from her, trying not to stare, but his mind was full of questions. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "This place is quiet." "Yeah," Jace replied. "That's why I live here." He gave a small smile, trying to keep things gentle. Kalari looked at him for a long time, then said, "You don't know who I am, do you?" Jace blinked. "No," he said. "Should I?" She looked down at her glowing hands, then back at him. "I'm not just alien," she said. "I was born to rule." Her words made the air in the room feel heavy. Jace leaned forward. "You mean like a princess?" She nodded slowly. "My family led the empire of Terrene. one of the oldest star nations in the quadrant. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were full of sorrow. We were known for knowledge, not war, for building, not breaking, she added. But the galaxy feared us anyway. Jace listened carefully, every word more unbelievable than the last. He didn't interrupt, didn't ask too many questions. He just let her speak, and Kailari seemed thankful for that. One day they came, she continued, a group called the Council of Harmony, but there was no harmony in them. They destroyed our capital, our libraries, our cities, and they said we were dangerous because of what we could become. She looked up, and her glowing eyes shimmered with tears. They killed everyone except me. Jace felt a chill run through him. He whispered, "How did you escape?" Kailari looked at the flames again. A guard who still believed in us helped me. He broke the chains and sent me to a smuggler. I traveled in cargo holds. Dirty tanks, broken ships, she said softly. Then I crashed here, Jace frowned. Crashed where? She pointed toward the forest. Far from here, days away, I walked until my legs stopped, then... Your door? Jace sat back, trying to process what she had just told him. She wasn't just a runaway alien. She was a hunted royal, the last of her kind, and now she was here. In his cabin, drinking tea, wrapped in a towel he bought from a cheap Earth store. Why were you so shocked yesterday? He asked, when I gave you the towel. Kailari looked at him and her voice shook a little. Because, she said, no one has touched me without pain since I was 10. No one has looked at me with kindness. To us, offering comfort to a stranger without asking for anything is sacred. Jace didn't know what to say. He felt a strange mix of sadness and anger at the galaxy for doing this to her. He stood up and walked to the kitchen, grabbed an apple and brought it back. Here, he said, offering it. You'll like this. Kailari took it slowly, her fingers brushing his, and once again, her hand trembled. But this time she smiled, a small, real smile. She took a bite and closed her eyes, like it was the first sweet thing she had tasted in years. But that moment didn't last long. Suddenly, a sharp beeping sound came from her wrist. A small glowing band hidden under the towel had lit up red. Kailari dropped the apple and stood up fast, eyes wide with fear. No, she whispered. They found me. Jace stood too. Who? The bounty trackers, she said. They must be close, maybe days, maybe hours. They placed a tracker inside me when I was captured. I thought it was dead. But now it's awake. She looked at Jace with panic. I have to leave. You're in danger now. But Jace shook his head. I'm not letting you run again. Not alone. Kailari stepped back. You don't understand. They don't spare humans who help me. They'll burn this place. I don't care, Jace said firmly. You're not just some alien to me anymore. You're Kailari. And you don't have to run from everything. Kailari looked at him. Stunned, she had seen war, betrayal, and fear, but never someone like him. A man willing to protect her without armor, weapons, or reason. And for the first time, she didn't feel like the last of anything. She felt seen. 2 days passed quietly, but the fear never left Kailari's eyes. She barely slept, only rested when Jay stayed nearby. She would listen for sounds outside, watching the trees like they might attack. Jace tried to distract her with stories, food and small repairs around the cabin, but nothing calmed her, not fully. On the 3rd day, they heard a strange sound in the sky. It wasn't thunder, and it wasn't one of Earth's aircraft. Jace stepped outside and looked up. A silver streak crossed the clouds, fast and silent, no wings, no tail, and no sound of engines. Just a flash, and then it vanished. When he returned inside, Kailari stood near the window, her face pale. They're scanning, she said. They're looking for me. Jace frowned. But how do they know you're here? She lifted her wrist and pointed to the red light still blinking on the metal band. This tracker wakes up if I stay in one place too long. It's old tech, but strong. They'll use drones to scan heat, life, and energy. They will find this cabin. It's only a matter of time. Jace rubbed the back of his neck, thinking fast. Can we take it off? He asked, pointing to the band. Kailari shook her head. It's inside me, under the skin. If we try to cut it out, it might send a distress signal. If we remove it the wrong way, it could kill me. Jace looked at the glowing red light, then back at her. Then we need to move, he said. Tonight. But Kailari didn't move. She stared at the fire, her body stiff, her voice quiet. Do you know what they do to people who hide me? She asked. They burned down a city once just for offering me water. Jace felt a chill again, the same cold fear that crept up his spine the night he found her. He sat beside her and said, "I don't care." Kalari turned to him, confused. He spoke slowly. "I'm not brave, I'm not a soldier. I'm just a man with a quiet life. But I made a choice the moment I gave you that towel. You needed help. And I helped. I won't run from that." For a long time, Kalari didn't speak, then she whispered, "No one has ever said that to me." That night, as they packed a bag of supplies, something flashed on the small screen near Kalari's wrist. A symbol, burning red, 3 curved lines around a star. Kalari gasped. "That's them. The hunters. Who are they?" Jace asked while locking the cabin doors. "They're not soldiers. Not police," she said, her voice trembling. "They're worse. They're bounty guilds. They capture fugitives for money. No questions asked, no mercy." She looked out the window into the dark trees. "They destroyed my home, took my mother's crown, and hunted our people like animals. They don't stop until the body is cold." Jace checked his shotgun, even though he knew it wouldn't help. "If they come," he said, "we make them regret it." Kalari stared at him with a strange look, half sorrow, half wonder. "You really are human," she whispered, "the kind my people used to speak of in stories." They moved quietly through the forest that night. Heading toward the old ranger tower, Jace remembered the place. It had solar power, a small radio, and an emergency tunnel. It could buy them time, maybe even hope. As they walked under the trees, Kalari suddenly froze. She knelt and brushed her fingers through the dirt. She pulled out a thin silver disc almost buried. "What is that?" Jace asked. She held it up and hissed, "A scan marker." They were here. She turned it over and showed him a burn mark. 3 claw marks. "The hunters marked this area," she said. They were close. Suddenly the wind shifted, and Kalari's skin glowed slightly. She turned toward the trees, eyes wide. "They're still watching," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not attacking yet, just observing." Jace grabbed her hand. "Then we go now." They ran the last mile to the tower, the silence behind them too perfect. No birds, no insects. Just quiet, unnatural and heavy once inside the tower. Jace activated the old generator. Lights flickered on. Kalari leaned against the wall. "Breathing hard, why now?" she whispered. "Why did they chase me again after all these months?" Jace looked at her, eyes serious. "Maybe, because they're scared of what you are. Maybe you're not just a princess running away. Maybe you're the only one who could stop them." Kalari looked at her hands, then at the stars outside the tower window, and deep in her heart something began to awaken. Not just fear, not just sadness, but purpose. The old ranger tower creaked in the wind. Its metal stairs rattled with every step Jace took. He looked out across the trees but saw nothing. No ships, no lights, no sound. Still something felt wrong, like the forest itself was holding its breath. Inside, Kalari sat with her back against the wall, eyes closed, glowing softly in the dark. The light came from the marks on her arms, symbols that pulsed gently. Jace watched her silently, wondering what they meant. They weren't tattoos, and they weren't scars. They looked alive, like they were written into her blood. Kalari opened her eyes. "They're still near," she said softly. Jace nodded. "I feel it too that night." The wind carried strange sounds, clicks, distant hums, and once, the rustle of metal brushing against leaves. Kalari didn't sleep. She stood near the window, watching, always watching. Then just before dawn, she whispered. They dropped something. Jace followed her outside, moving slow and quiet through the fog-covered trees. Kalari stopped beside a bush and pointed. There, half buried in the wet dirt, was a small round device blinking faint blue. "What is it?" Jace asked. Kalari crouched and picked it up, her hand shaking. "This is a pathfinder," she said. "Hunter tech, but not for tracking. This is a warning." "A warning to who?" Jace asked, his voice tense. "To me," she replied, her eyes narrowing. "They're saying, we know where you are and we're letting you panic." "They enjoy fear," she added. "It's part of the hunt." She crushed the disc in her palm, and it fizzed out. Jace stared at her glowing hand. "Why leave a warning instead of attacking?" Kalari didn't answer for a moment, then she said, "Because they want to see if I'm alone or if I have allies. If I do, they'll kill them first." Jace felt a cold grip tighten around his chest. So this wasn't just a hunt. It was a game. They were testing her, testing him back at the tower. Jace opened an old storage box and pulled out an emergency radio. It still worked, though barely. He turned the dial, trying every frequency, hoping to find a human patrol, a pilot, anyone. But the channels were full of static except one. A voice came through, soft and metallic. "Kalari of House Varel, surrender and you will be spared pain. You have 20 hours to comply." Jace stared at the radio in shock. "How do they know your name?" Kalari stepped closer, her face pale but calm. "They always know," she said. "They have records, voices, faces. They use them to break the mind before the body." Jace turned off the radio and looked at her. "We can't run anymore," he said, "so what do we do?" Kalari looked out the tower window again. "There's an old ruin not far from here," she said, "buried under the forest. My people used it during the old Earth-Terrene trade era. It might still have a vault, tech that can block the tracker or jam the signal." "How far?" Jace asked, grabbing his pack. 2 miles, she said, "but we have to go before they surround us." As they moved through the woods, Kalari told Jace more about the hunters. "They aren't just killers," she said. "They train from birth to track, break, and erase. They don't use ships that show up on scans. They walk, crawl, dig, even mimic voices. One of them can wear a human face, skin stolen from a real body." Jace clenched his fists. "You said they burned a whole city for helping you." Kalari nodded. "Because I'm more than just a runaway." She stopped walking and looked at him with deep, glowing eyes. "I carry something inside me," she whispered. A shard of the star key. Jace had never heard of it, but the way she said it made his heart beat faster. "What does it do?" he asked. Kalari looked at the sky. "It opens the vault of the 9 suns. Inside is power, knowledge enough to end wars or start them. They thought my family destroyed the key, but my mother hid a part of it, in me." Jace took a slow breath. "So they don't just want to kill you. They want what's inside you." She nodded. "And if they get it, the galaxy burns." As they reached a rocky slope, Kalari paused, her hand on a moss-covered stone. She whispered something in her language, and the ground trembled. A small door opened under the roots of a tree. Metal, glowing faintly blue. "The ruin," she said. "We're close." Just then, a sound echoed in the distance. 3 sharp clicks, followed by silence. Kalari's eyes widened. "They sent a hunter ahead," she said. "One of the bone walkers." Jace pulled her behind a tree. "What's a bone walker?" She whispered. "They wear the skulls of the dead and move like shadows. They smell fear and chase it like blood." Jace looked at her and said, "Then we don't show fear." Kalari smiled. "Just barely. You're learning fast, human." The door to the old ruin closed behind them, sealing out the sounds of the forest. It was cold and quiet inside, and the air smelled like dust and old metal. Blue lights flickered along the stone walls. Reacting to Kalari's glowing skin, Jace looked around in awe. The place didn't look like anything built by humans. The walls were smooth, curved and humming softly like they were alive. "This place was a secret passage for my people," Kalari whispered. "It was made to hide, not to fight." She stepped carefully along the floor, her bare feet making no sound. Jace followed, eyes scanning everything, symbols, metal roots, pulsing lines on the walls. They reached a small chamber with a raised platform in the center. Kalari sat on her knees before it and closed her eyes. "This will take a moment," she said. "I must lower my body's energy so the vault doesn't see me as a threat." Jace stood nearby, watching her carefully. Her glowing marks began to fade, and her body went still, too still. Her breath slowed, her skin became pale like stone. Then the platform lit up beneath her, scanning her from head to toe. Jace took a slow step forward, but tripped slightly on a metal ridge. His hand shot out to stop his fall, and it landed right on one of the glowing symbols on Kalari's arm. In that moment, everything changed. The lights in the chamber exploded into brightness. Kalari's body jolted as if struck by lightning. Her eyes shot open, glowing like stars. She gasped, then screamed, a sound of shock. "Not pain!" Jace jumped back, but the damage was done. Kalari looked at her arm, then at Jace, her voice shaking. "You touched the lock," she said. "It was never meant to be touched. I didn't mean to," Jace stammered. "I was just trying to keep my balance," but Kalari didn't hear him. She was breathing hard, her marks glowing brighter than ever. Then she grabbed her head and whispered, "No, I can see. The vault. The burning stars." She collapsed to her knees, eyes wide, not with pain, but with knowledge. "What's happening?" Jace asked, kneeling beside her. "I saw the future," Kalari whispered. "Your future." You die protecting me. Jace froze. What do you mean? She looked at him, tears in her eyes. The vault unlocked part of its memory through your touch. The lock on my body isn't just a symbol. It's a living code. And only someone with no greed, no hunger for power can unlock it. You did that. Jace sat back, stunned. But I don't want power, he said. I just want you safe. Kalari smiled. That's why it worked. Suddenly, a deep hum echoed through the ruin, a voice, not human, not alien, but pure energy, spoke in their minds. Bearer of the key and guide of the heart, your path is seen. Your fate is joined. Kalari stood slowly, stronger now, her skin shining like starlight. I can feel it, she said. The shard inside me is no longer sleeping. You awakened it. Jace. He looked at her, worried. Is that a good thing? She nodded, yes and no. Yes, because now I can fight back. No, because the hunters felt it too. As if on cue, the ground shook slightly, dust fell from the ceiling, and the walls turned red. An alarm from the ruin itself began to echo, long and deep. Kalari's eyes darkened. They're here. Jace grabbed her hand. Then we fight. No, she said quickly. We run? There's one more thing we need from this place. She led him down a narrow tunnel, deeper into the earth. At the end was a chamber with a floating orb, gold and white. Spinning slowly, the guidance core, Kalari whispered. It holds maps, knowledge, and codes from my people. If we can get this off-world, we can prove the truth, that we were peaceful, that the council lied. She reached for the orb, but it floated toward Jace instead. Kalari's jaw dropped. It chose you. What? Why me? Jace asked, backing away. Because you're not just my protector now, she said. You're my bond, my equal. The vault sees you as part of the royal line now. The moment Jace touched the orb, it vanished into light and flew into his chest. He gasped, stepping back, but felt no pain, only warmth. It's inside you, Kalari said, amazed. Hidden until you need it. Before they could speak again, the stone wall behind them cracked. A voice came from the darkness, raspy, deep, full of hate. Run, little star child. Run while your human bleeds. Kalari's eyes narrowed. They've sent the pale fang, she whispered. The deadliest of them all. Jace looked at her and said, Then let's give him a reason to be afraid. The ruin shook again. This time harder, cracks ran across the walls, and pieces of ancient stone fell from the ceiling. Kalari grabbed Jace's hand and pulled him into the tunnel. We have to move, she said, her voice sharp. The pale fang doesn't speak twice. Jace's heart pounded as they ran through the glowing passage. Behind them something was moving, slow, heavy, and full of power. The sound of metal scraping against stone echoed like a monster waking from a long sleep. Who is he? Jace asked, breathless. Kalari didn't look back. He was once a royal guard. Turned hunter after the council wiped out my family. He kept my brother's skull as a trophy. Her voice trembled. Not from fear, but rage. They reached the surface just as the forest exploded with light. A silver ship hovered in the air, no noise, no flame, just a cold blue glow. From its side dropped 3 tall figures wrapped in armor made of bones and glass. Jace raised his old shotgun, hands shaking. Kalari stepped in front of him, her glowing arms rising slowly. Her symbols blazed bright gold now, alive and burning. The hunters stepped forward, weapons in hand. One of them spoke in a language Jace didn't understand, but Kalari answered, her voice like thunder. I am Kalari of House Virel, last daughter of the Star Throne. I do not kneel. The air thickened. The trees groaned, and then a blast of light came from her body. Hitting all 3 hunters, they stumbled, but didn't fall, Jace fired. Hitting one in the chest, the bullet bounced off, but the impact slowed it down. That's not gonna work, Jace muttered. I know, Kalari replied. But it bought us a second. She grabbed his hand and whispered, Remember the orb? Jace nodded. It's inside me. Call it, she said. With your heart? Jace closed his eyes, reached deep into the warmth in his chest. A whisper answered him, not a voice, but a feeling. Then light exploded from his palms, forming a shield of energy in front of them. Kalari smiled. You're bonded now, the hunters roared and charged, but hit the shield hard and were thrown back. The pale fang stepped through the trees. Taller than the others, his body was half machine, half bone, his face hidden behind a cracked mask. He spoke in a deep growl. You bonded a human? How low the star line has fallen, Kalari didn't blink. This human has more honor than you ever did. Pale Fang raised his weapon. A blade made of black light, he pointed it at Jace. I will carve the truth from him. Jace stepped forward. Shield still glowing. Try it. The first strike hit like lightning, sending both Kalari and Jace flying. Jace crashed into a tree, groaning, his chest burned, not from pain but from energy. The orb inside him responded to the attack. Wrapping light around his body, he stood up slowly, body glowing like her symbols. Kalari looked at him, shocked. The vault chose you fully. You're not just bonded, you're awakened. Jace didn't understand it all, but he felt it, his fear melted away, replaced by purpose. He ran toward the pale Fang and swung his fist. Light burst forward. Throwing the hunter into a rock, Kalari followed, using her symbols to form golden whips of energy. Together they fought, man and alien princess. Their movements synced like they'd trained for years. Jace blocked the attacks, Kalari struck back. The forest burned around them as more hunters fell. The pale Fang growled in anger, his blade now red hot. Then he turned and threw something, a spike straight at Kalari's heart. Jace moved faster than thought. He took the hit, the spike burying into his side. He fell to the ground, coughing. Kalari screamed and ran to him, holding him close. No, she whispered. Not you, Jace smiled weakly. Still breathing, the orb inside him began to glow brighter. Surrounding his body, Kalari placed her hands over the wound, and her symbols shifted color, from gold to white. She whispered a word in her language, and light poured from her palms. The wound sealed slowly, pain fading. The pale Fang watched from a distance, then disappeared into the smoke. He knew he'd lost this round. Kalari helped Jace to his feet. You saved me again, she said, her voice soft. You saved me first, Jace replied. The forest was silent once more. The hunters gone, the sky above open, but they both knew. It wasn't over yet. This was just the beginning of something bigger. The battle was over, but the forest still carried the scars. Trees lay cracked, burned, and broken. Smoke drifted above the ruin like a ghost that didn't know it was dead. Jace sat on a fallen log, hand pressed to his side. The wound was closed now thanks to Kalari's power, but the memory of that spike, the pain, the fear, her scream, stayed with him. Kalari sat beside him, her hands glowing gently as they passed over his arm. Her eyes no longer glowed with fear, but with calm. The hunters had retreated, and for the first time, the stars above them felt still. They'll return, Jace said quietly. Won't they? Kalari nodded. Yes, but not today. Today, we survived. A silence fell between them, not heavy but deep. It was the silence of two souls who had walked through fire together. Changed, scarred, but still standing, Kalari reached into her pocket and pulled out a small crystal. It shimmered like liquid starlight, turning softly in her palm. This is the heart gift, she said. It was meant to be given to the one who would sit beside me on the star throne. She looked at him, her voice soft. But the throne is gone, the empire is gone. All I have left is this, and my choice. She held out the crystal to Jace. You saved me, bled for me, stood by me without asking anything. Now, I give you a choice. Speak one true wish into the crystal, and it shall be granted. Jace stared at it. Stunned, this wasn't a joke, not a trick, this was real. He could wish for anything, money, power, fame, a life off-world, even immortality. But he didn't even blink. He took a breath and said, I want you to be safe. Kalari froze. The crystal flashed once, then shattered in her hand like glass touched by fire. For a moment she said nothing, her fingers trembling. Then tears rolled down her cheeks, slow and silent. You could have had anything, she whispered, but you chose me. Jace smiled. I didn't save you to get something in return. I just wanted you to live, to stop running, to feel free. Kalari dropped to her knees, not out of weakness, but out of meaning in her culture. This was a gesture older than kings and war, the kneeling of one who had found someone worthy. She pressed her forehead to his hand and whispered, Then I am yours forever. The sky above changed color slowly. Stars twinkled brighter than before, as if the universe itself had heard the choice he made. Jace helped her to her feet. She stood tall now, not just as the last of her line, but as something new, something reborn. What do we do now? Jace asked, looking at the night sky. Kalari smiled. Now, we rebuild. She turned her eyes toward the distant mountains. There are others like me, hiding, lost, afraid. If they see that one human stood beside a forgotten princess, maybe they'll rise too. Jace nodded. Then let's find them. As they walked away from the ruin, the last rays of light flickered behind them. A small pulse echoed from the place where the crystal had shattered. Unseen, a tiny spark of energy floated up into the sky, faster than light. Far across the stars, a chamber full of old machines lit up. A hidden voice spoke in the language of the ancients. Bond confirmed, key repaired, bloodline restored. And deep within the vaults of the Nine Suns something stirred. Not a weapon. Not a curse, but hope. Jace was no king, no warrior, no chosen one. But he gave what no empire ever could. A towel, a hand, a home, and in return, he changed the fate of galaxies, all because when she knocked, he answered not with fear but with kindness.